Hey all, Flame here, and welcome to the FlameHisWorld commentary of Mega Man 4 for the Game Boy. Now, this one is following on from the other Game Boy games that I covered last year. I said that I would go through all of them, and that's exactly what I'm continuing to do. This game was originally released in Japan in October 1993, and in North America and Europe in December 1993. And in terms of production value, it kind of feels like a bit of a step above like those three games, like the previous three Game Boy games. And that's because, like, as well as just feeling like a meatier adventure in itself, like the levels are a bit longer and a bit harder, at least to my recollection. Right off the bat, we've got this proper sprite animated cutscene going on, which is kind of retelling the story up to this point, or just like going over the general gist of what Mega Man is. And it's kind of strange because, like, this is the fourth game and they're starting doing it here, which, you know, kind of coincidentally, in the NES series, it was Mega Man 4 where they started bringing in like a cutscene at the start, like, you know, showing off what had happened up to that point in the NES series. So I guess it's just the thing that after they've done the three games, that's when they decide to step up the production value a little bit. You know, give you something a bit prettier to look at. Like, maybe this cutscene does go on a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. And there, just then, we got a preview of who's to come in that, as with both Dr. Wily's Revenge and Mega Man 3 Game Boy, there is a Mega Man killer robot who is going to be quite significant later on in the game. In this game, it is Ballad, because we've had enka music, we've had punk music. So now, you know, you gotta tone it down a little bit, you gotta relax a little bit and just have a nice dramatic ballad to finish things off. Or at least we hope finish things off. Dr. Wily's sent his most powerful robots across the world, and like, that is what he does every time. But what they're introducing here is this game's new mechanic, because I guess similar to how the later main series, classic series games would go out, this does actually have like a shop system. But unlike, say, Mega Man 7 onwards, where, you know, you collect bolts in the level and you can use them to buy things in a shop, in this game, like, you find these little P-chips in the levels, and you can save those up and take them to Dr. Light, who can use them to construct new goods for you. So it is kind of the same sort of thing as in the shops in later games. Like, you can get, like, health items, you can get, like, weapon items, like, you know, restoring your weapon energy and stuff like that. I can't actually remember if I use it at all. I think I might stick my nose in at one point, but like, I've never really been the kind of player to do that, really. Like, if I'm gonna do that, I'm probably gonna just grind stuff rather than, you know, grind individual P-chips or individual bolts and buy things. But hey, that's just my style of play. Like, that enemy just there, they're dropping the P-chips that we need. They are quite liberal with their placements. Sometimes they do just put them in front of you like that. Other times, like, you know, it's pretty much just you find them inside enemies or in like little places you have to jump out your way to get. And yeah, that's pretty much the structure of this game, how it gives you new items and whatnot. But in terms of the actual structure of the game and like the levels we go through, it does the same kind of thing as what Wily's Revenge, Mega Man 2 Game Boy and Mega Man 3 Game Boy do, in that to start off with, we'll start by fighting 4 Robot Masters from the game's namesake. So we get 4 Mega Man 4 Robot Masters. The 4 who weren't featured in Mega Man 3 Game Boy will be showing up here. And they have recreations of the levels. They seem a little bit more faithful, and so like it's pretty much like those levels as they appeared in the NES game, just with a few little new bells and whistles adapting to like account for the fact you have a smaller screen going on here. And then once we've done that, once we've took down these 4 Robot Masters, we get another 4. And they will be some of the Mega Man 5 NES Robot Masters. So they're just keeping up with the trend. I believe they will actually be changing the pattern a little bit when we get to Mega Man 5 Game Boy. I believe that changes up a lot of things, but like I've deliberately held off of watching any footage of that or even looking up anything into it beyond like what I've heard over the years. And that's because like when I was starting doing this series, it was kind of a fairly new thing to me. And as I'm going along, I'm trying to form comparisons as I continue to play through them rather than like thinking, oh, this one's the good one, this one's the bad one, and things like that. So yeah, I want to go into 5 with an open mind, just as I have with all the others. Because like it's weird, when I was going through Mega Man 2, like when I first played that, I didn't really know much about the reputation that Mega Man 2 Game Boy had as like the weakest one of the Game Boy games. And like the only problem that I really picked up on it, obviously, was the music. Like I didn't think too much was bad with like the level designs or whatever. So to then see after the fact that that was a problem a lot of people were complaining about and that Inafune wasn't happy about, you know, it was kind of weird to think, oh, I was fine with this game. And that's why I'm trying to go through the rest of these with open minds. But yes, as we just saw, that was the meme man himself, Mr. Toadman. He is absolute piss easy. He is as easy to take down as he is in the NES version. There is naturally a bit of a difference, as I've brought up before, in that if you're playing the Game Gear Mega Man game, he's actually surprisingly buff in that game. For like, he's got the same sort of pattern to my recollection, but he's also madly sped up. Like, he goes much faster, he jumps around much faster, and so he's actually kind of difficult in the Game Gear version, like even if you're playing on the normal difficulty. But no, that's not the case here, and there's the password, I don't know what the fuck they're trying to get at there, but hey. And yeah, up next, as I seem to recall I usually go up next in the NES version as well, straight after Toadman, we're going to Brightman, who I can't remember much of his level from this. Like, I remember in the NES version, he has that like little detour section, which I think they show a little bit here. And they've also, from the NES version, they've got the fireworks guys. They've got the guys that, them ones that are just shot, that when you shoot down the enemy, like, blacks out stage until like you either move on to a new screen or you hit one of the fireworks enemies. But yes, that's another new item here, in that those are kind of like half energy tanks. Like, they fill up a little bit of your health, at least I believe that's what they do. Again, I can't remember if I actually used them. Like, when I'm recording these, naturally I am using save states and that to get a good rundown, so I don't really need health items as much as like you would need in a casual playthrough. But hey. And yes, there is also another change to how this game plays that is actually kind of annoying to me, that I don't like. And that is when you have a fully charged buster and you're in midair and you shoot it, you actually get a bit of knockback, which is new in this game. Like, it's not in any of the other Game Boy Mega Man games, it's not in any of the NES ones. I don't even think it's like in 7 or 8 or any of them games. It's just really off-putting, because like you're trying to plan your jumps ahead. Like, if you're trying to make a jump from, like, say this platform to another platform, and you want to know that you can shoot the guy out the way and then you can jump, but no, the shot actually can throw you off course, because, you know, you in midair, you want to shoot him down with your fully charged buster, but no, you can't do that because you get knocked back a little bit and then you have to realign yourself to make the jump. And it's not like a game killer or anything, but it's just fiddly enough that you can sort of fuck yourself over, especially like if you're not expecting it, given that, again, it's not in the other games. I don't think there's any mechanics like that in any of the other Mega Man games, at least ones I've played. Like, most of the time, like, if you shoot in mid-air, you just shoot. It doesn't really affect your character movement at all, and that's kind of something that keeps the pace up, because, like, you can run and gun, you can be the amazing jump shoot man. Yeah, I know, like, overkill that one a little bit more. But yes, I will say something I've noticed in terms of the art design in this game compared to the other Game Boy games. There's a lot more use of the darker shades that the Game Boy can produce. And that's like a lot of black backgrounds, a lot of the dark grey, because if you think back to like Wily's Revenge and them games, a lot of the times the background would be using the lighter shades, and the foreground objects, like the obstacles and whatnot, they would be the ones that use the darker colours, just so that they stand out distinct. Whereas that seems kind of flipped here. That's fine for the odd level here and there. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But when you're playing for extended periods of time, it actually starts to become a little bit overwhelming. At least it did for me. Like, that is very likely just a personal preference thing. Like, it's very subjective in terms of, like, the use of colour in this game, or the use of shades, because, like, obviously it's a grayscale game. It's an original Game Boy game. But yeah, it's something that I did notice, and it did kind of just, you know, become a little bit overwhelming to look at over time. But yes, we used Toadman's weapon and we took down Brightman surprisingly easy there. Like, I guess Toadman's weapon, as well as being like easy as fuck to kill the Robot Master it comes from, it's also a little bit on the powerful side because it's a screen nuke. And so, like, as long as you're not letting the other guy hit you too much, having that screen nuke weapon is actually really useful. So yeah, you can, like, I might say, like, it's surprising that I got Brightman taken down so quickly, but at the end of the day, be boo bruh bruh bruh, but like, I got rid of the boss easy enough. And yes, this is another guy who was a bit of a joke in the NES one. He sort of is here, but like, his level's got some other things going on, and I do like Pharaoh Man. I like Pharaoh Man's design. I like his level aesthetic, that like, it's this desert area with these sort of Egyptian vibes going on. I don't really see much like of like ancient Egyptian kind of theming for games like outside of the games that are specifically built around like I think there was that one Assassin's Creed game not too long ago that has the ancient Egyptian theme going on. But like, ancient Egypt is something that I remember even just studying like back in primary school and that, and thinking some of the kind of like things that were going on around that time were really interesting. Like, you know, the Egyptian, like the pharaohs, the whole stories like around Tutankhamun and things like that. And even just like building the pyramids and that, like the pyramids are such a spectacle that a lot of them have lasted so long. And the fact that a lot of them are in still pretty good nick these days, and like you can go and visit and whatnot, and they're all like holding up well, like with obvious nature damage and like you would expect, but the fact that they are like this legacy left behind from that particular time, I think there's a lot of cool things going on from that time. At least historically. Maybe not for some of the people who were having to work on things at that time. That probably was quite unpleasant as an understatement. But you know, when you think of like the stories of the Egyptian gods, and there's one thing that I seem to recall that is like quite an odd thing to think of. But in terms of their numerical system, if you think of like the Roman numerals, where you kind of have here like letters representing numbers and that, I believe the ancient Egyptians had their own way of like writing notation down for numbers, but I believe they don't actually have a zero. I believe that was like a problem with the notation that I remember an old teacher of mine bringing up, and that's kind of interesting to me. Is like, how do you represent nothing if you don't have like a zero notation? And just to correct myself, because I actually have just looked this up, apparently from 1740 BCE onward, the Egyptians did actually have a zero symbol, and it's kind of like an oval shaped thing with a cross coming out the top, which apparently meant to represent like beauty and things being pleasant or good, at least going to what Wikipedia says. Like, if I'm just looking at the symbols right now, 1 is just a short stroke going down. 10 is like an upside down half circle thing it's got going on. 100 is a kind of coil. 1000 is a water lily, like it's got the sort of plant looking shape near the top. 10,000 is a bent finger, which looks honestly quite bizarre. 100,000 is a tadpole. And 1,000,000, and this is actually kind of great, it's a picture of one of their gods, and that god is called He. H-E-H, and that's just kind of funny to me. Also, Pharaoh Man just died. I took him down with literally no effort. But then I guess that kind of is the nature of the beast with Mega Man. It's the thing that, like, there are some absolute piss easy bosses, but, like, again, if you weren't aware of his weakness, then you would have gone into him and you would have had kind of a fair fight. It's only because I know who's weak to what that I can take these down so easily. But I'm starting to think that password screen that I'm having a laugh at, I wonder if the B's and R's are meant to represent the blue and the red pellets from like the NES versions of the game. Because in those games, like, they use little coloured dots to represent like the different things that you got to remember if you want to use the password screen to get back in. But obviously this is a grayscale game, so they can't really do that. So are they just using like B and R to kind of stand for blue and red? That'd be amazing if that's what their actual thought process was. Although saying that does raise the question of what the E's are about, so maybe it means something else. I'm honestly not sure. But yes, here we have Ring Man. You know, ding, ding, ding. Get the ring, ring, ring. Gotta, you know, be the Sonic Electronic. Gotta be the king. I love that fucking song. Even if pretty much the only reason why a lot of people will know that fucking song is thanks to Sonic Movie's shitposting, which to this day I find fucking hilarious. I don't even care. But yeah, I love Sonic Electronic. It's like a guilty pleasure song, I guess. But the gimmicks in this stage, as with all the others, it's a similar kind of deal. You have these platforms. They seem to use these a little bit more often than I remember from Mega Man 4, like NES. I seem to remember they had a few parts, but I don't remember them being on like every other screen or whatever. I remember them Saturn enemies though, because I think they are a kind of cool character design. They really epitomise the fact that we're in space and we've got like the stars in the background as well, and it's kind of tying in the enemies with the like general stage aesthetic. And that's something that I think is kind of overlooked in a lot of retro platformers, in the fact that enemy designs do help develop the identity of a level as well a lot of the time, at least in games like this, because if you're comparing this to like, say, Super Mario Bros, for example, like the original NES games, for the very least, like that has its set like Koopa Troop members who you see in all the levels. You see like Goombas throughout, you see Koopas throughout, and in the later levels, just for the sake of difficulty, you see like Hammer Brothers throughout. It's not like really, this is the level with the Hammer Brothers in it, or this is the level with the Koopas in it. Whereas here, like, those like Saturn shape enemies, they kind of do define this level. They add an extra level of character to this level beyond just the stage gimmicks. It's like a little complementary thing, and that even goes to things like Sonic as well. If you compare like old school Sonic and just like the 2D ones, like including Mania and whatnot as well, you think there's certain levels that have motor bugs. There's things like the casino enemies and things that are just general theming and that. And if you think of when that's done really well, like even when they went to sort of genericizing a lot of the enemies, like they had the standardized egg pawn designs. Something that I think is really cool is like saying colours, where they add like little welcome signs and they give like different versions of the egg pawns depending on what world you're in. That just adds a little touch as well. Whereas I love theming. I love theming in games so much. It's just like a very basic thing. It's a very basic aesthetic thing. But when I'm as much of a fucking sucker for design as I am, even though I can't design shit myself, like for shit, I have no creativity or imagination. That's why I don't really make things of my own. I just talk about other people's things and give my opinions, my fucking dumb, uneducated, uninformed opinions that are always so lovely. But, you know, I do my thing. I like to think that criticism, or critique I should really say, because a lot of the time it's positive critique. Like, I like to think that's its own, like, thing. But yeah, Ring Man has a very similar pattern to what he does in the console game, in that he can throw down like his ring, but he's weak to Ferroman's weapon, so just get in the right spot a few times and you will be absolutely fine. And while I appreciate the fact that the item get screen isn't quite as terrifying here as it was in Dr. Wily's Revenge, I'm still not that big a fan on the rapid screen flashing. Like, aside from the fact that that's kind of a health issue to some people, just in general, the fact that it completely like blinds you as you look at it is a little bit uncomfortable to look at. But yes, just like with some of the console games, not all of them, but some of them, like I think it's Mega Man 5 on the consoles where they started doing the little beat parts. In this game, we have been collecting them as we went along. I haven't really been pointing it out because like you can see that shit with your own eyes. I'm not going to like patronise you. But yes, like we've collected them and we get beat that we can use, just like with Mega Man 5. And I think he's in 6 as well. I can't really remember. He might be. I'm pretty sure like he has like a cameo use in 8. And I think you can buy him from the shop in 9 and 10. Don't quote me on that. It's actually been a very long time since I played 9 or 10. I like what I remember of those games, particularly 10 maybe more so than 9. But because they're games that I have to boot up the console for rather than just fuck around with on an emulator, like they don't get as much like replaying from me as like say the earlier NES ones. Like, if I'm going to replay a Mega Man game, I usually go to either Mega Man 2 NES or I go to Mega Man X. Like, Mega Man X because it's like such a fun game to just plow through. And I do like this cutscene as well. This cutscene is really cool. Like, again, it's much more detailed than we got in anything from like Wily's Revenge 2 or 3. But this is kinda new, I guess. We've got this sort of mini-boss thing. We've got to shoot this satellite dish, which is odd. But, you know, you just got to dodge out the way of it, and, like, there's really not much to it, at least to my recollection. That thing I seem to recall being a bit of a bitch to dodge, like, but once you know where to slide through it, you'll be, like, fine, really. Yeah, so this is the waiting game. Come on, do your thing, let me shoot you. Once you got your Ferroman's weapon like fired up, he doesn't really take that many hits. Like you can see down the bottom right, his health bar is just sort of going way down, like really quickly. And we have a bit of a fiddly section here, because what you've got to do is you've got to take out these rocket things that can hurt you if you get too close to them. And what you really want to do is you want to keep on the move. You want to, like, not let them hit you. And then once you're through them like this, then we get our first confrontation with Wily, because as you can imagine, we haven't covered the Mega Man 5 robots yet, so we're going to have some stuff to do. But we do get a bit of a introduction to our boy Ballad there. So yeah, he's really not all that difficult. He sort of jumps around, he fires out these little projectiles. But like, if you're on the ball with your jumping and your sliding, you shouldn't have too much trouble here. Just do as I'm doing with the Buster, and you'll get him to his sort of crash state really quickly. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time for part 2 of Mega Man 4 Game Boy. Bye bye for now.